This is an Empty Closet Radio podcast. Get more at facebook.com/emptyclosetradio. So camp.
Stop laughing at me. It's not even funny.
Yes, it is.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sam.
And this is The Empty Closet.
The show for everyone, whether you're in the closet
Or out and proud. Or
somewhere in between.
Sam, it is holiday time at the moment, or if you're not on holidays, you're probably coming up to some holidays because it is summertime, and for one reason or another, most Australians take holidays, either in this month or next month. For me, Sam, it's always like February because I wait for January to be like over so that I don't have to go on holidays with all the school children. And then, I know, that's my theory. And then, when February arrives, then everybody's back at school and I go on holidays to get away from cyclone season. It's a great, great theory.
Yeah, except that cyclone season is getting wider and wider every year.
And except that we had like 2 close calls already this season. Ex-tropical cyclones, yes, but they were still pretty feisty.
Yeah, they've always got some guts left in them. But moving on from cyclones and holidays. So I must admit I haven't put that much thought into planning my holidays around the lives of school children or lack thereof of school children. So you're already ahead of the curve compared to me.
Well, you know that I do like to plan things. Very much so. So what I wanted to talk about today was really when you're on holidays is like sometimes, you know, you're very relaxed and you go and do things that you wouldn't normally do, and you go and meet people who you wouldn't normally meet, and you may end up having a holiday fling. Is this a good idea, or does it just lead to tragedy?
I think much like all things romance and sex, it really depends on how well you're communicating with each other and how well you know your own expectations. So I think holiday flings are great fun. They can be great fun. They can be a great way to create a memorable experience for your trip, or, you know, do something that you probably wouldn't be brave enough to do back home. Sometimes you do something that you wouldn't do for a good reason. So, you know, maybe it's a bad idea. And I think the thing as well is that I think that any time you have a romance or sexually charged situation in an unusual environment, so that can either be under high stress, so like you know, people who meet during times of crisis and kind of imprint on each other, all the way to holidays, like times that are so drastically different to your life, you run the risk of thinking that that's a perfect, shining relationship and nothing will ever measure up. And that relationship would not measure up in day-to-day life. Like, if you go in expecting to have fun and like hold it as a cherished memory, then that's great. If you go in expecting that this is the love of your life, and if it doesn't pan out, no one else will ever match up, then you're setting yourself up for years of ice cream and heartbreak and sad music.
Oh my god, is that why I still have ice cream in my freezer like right now?
Possibly.
Right. So, for people who have not listened to all our previous podcasts, firstly, go back and listen to them. Secondly, you'll quickly learn that I moved to Cairns after having a holiday fling, which I must admit at the time when it was occurring was very fun. And when I landed back in my old home, which was in Melbourne, I more or less thought, well, that was fun and now it's over. And I felt a bit sad about it. And then, you know, it wasn't over on the other end with the other person. They ended up, you know, continuing on the fling part of the holiday.
And look, there are people who meet their spouse in less than ideal conditions, and it's the start of something decades long and magical, but expecting it to always be the same is perhaps where a lot of people fall down with these things. Like, one of my favorite online artists, who is a queer female person, met her husband, who was the first man she'd ever been attracted to, when she was on 6 months ovulation. overseas, and they'd done a fling, and then they'd kind of gone, this is just a fling, and they'd found themselves keeping in touch with each other and still being interested, and that's when they went, all right, well, should we work on a long distance relationship? Like, they didn't start out under the assumption they would keep going, but most of the time it seems to perhaps not end as happily as people want.
No, it's not glamorous. Well, I mean, the way that mine ended was not glamorous. And I can imagine that, you know, the same would be true of many other people who had holiday flings. But should that stop me from having another fling? That is the question.
Well, no, but it really, again, it depends on what you're expecting out of it. Like, if you go on a GPS-based dating application when you're traveling under the expectation that you're going to meet the love of your life, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. But if you think, I'm going to meet attractive people that I won't have met back home because they're nowhere near me, you know, woo, let's have some fun, then that's exactly the attitude you should be taking.
Yeah, because that's like basically all that's on offer, really. Let's be realistic. You're listening to the Empty Closet podcast. Why not connect with us on our Facebook page? Just search for Empty Closet Radio and hit the like button. I'm about to go on a holiday where I might not need one of those GPS app things to meet the local people though, Sam. Have I told you about my holiday?
I think you've told listeners about your holiday as well.
Sam's like, it's all you've talked about for like the last year, Andrew. How did we miss the note?
Not quite that long, because it's been less than a year since your last holiday.
That's true, yes. Only just barely less than a year. So I'm going to go on this cruise ship that is full of, it's like one of those all gay cruises, and it's going to be just completely full of gay boys, and I think potentially like a few lesbians dotted around, but in the marketing material I mainly see gay boys.
Yeah, this is one of those things where someone says gay event and everyone else in the queer community goes, it's just going to be gay boys.
Yeah, which for me is as much as I care about like all the colours of our community, and I would love for everybody to join in, there are some moments in time, Sam, where I'm like, gee, it's lovely that there's like so many boys here.
Wouldn't it be nice, though, if other members of our community could feel that and it wasn't just boys everywhere? Wouldn't that be lovely for us?
Well, actually, we try and create those spaces, Sam. Clearly, we try and create those spaces.
Yeah, but half the time they're still advertised with buff, nearly naked men. And let me tell you, that is not going to attract women looking for women. I'm sorry. It's just not going to.
Okay. This is like we're getting off course because we were supposed to be talking about the idea of a holiday fling. And Sam, this has just been hijacked by this. Wait, can I use a line of is it the Liberal Party? Oh, this has been hijacked by Equal Opportunity, Sam.
They're basically a meme at this point, but anyway.
Okay. So the idea is it a good idea for me to have a holiday fling while I'm on this boat? And I don't think anyone will have any GPS based apps. They'll just be like meeting each other in the hallways and stuff.
Okay, so I think it's important to define, when you say holiday fling, are you we're meeting randomly for, 20 minutes of sexy time? Or do you mean like we're going to have a red hot, fiery, passionate hookup that's going to carry through, almost like a tiny relationship that we agree to end at the end? Which of those are you saying when you say fling?
This is a big question for me, and I haven't really thought about it. Can I have a bit of both?
Well, I guess it depends on how much of your red hot fling you're both happy with the 20 minutes of sexy time in the bathroom. Side flings? I don't know how to define it.
I don't know. It's going to be really weird. I imagine that there'll probably be I imagine that there might be a bit of both going on. Like between obviously with all the guests that are on the ship, there'll be some that are doing the short-term fling and others that are doing the longer term fling, which lasts for the 1 week that the boat's at the ocean. I wonder how many like couples actually would end up like continuing their relationship after the boat comes back.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that you could, in the interest of science, hand out flyers at the start of the cruise to everyone you see and be like, so I have this gay radio show and we're curious about the numbers. So if you could record all your hookups and your feelings about them and then whether you intend to stay in contact afterwards and just see what you get as replies.
Sam, I don't think, aside from, so the only thing that I can think of from that whole situation that would be a good outcome is that people might actually download our podcast because they'd be like, what is this junk?
But think of the potential listening numbers. That would be fantastic. You need to get on it.
I do need to get on it, but we're not going to, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm sorry.
You can tell them the results are anonymous. You're not going to record any name.
The results are anonymous, except if you're really hot, then I might just mark on your form, hot, callback.
Responsible, Andrew. Very responsible.
All I ask is whether you're top or bottom, that's all.
That's not all you ask.
Right, there's a few other questions that we're not going to talk about on air. Sam, you always tell all of my secrets.
Andrew, you started the secrets.
No, I didn't, did I?
Yes, you did. Mister, I only ask if you're top or bottom.
And a few other things. But, you know, we'll get there. We'll see what happens. I actually suspect that I probably will have multiple shorter flings. Wouldn't it be nice? I should just have a different fling for each day that we're away so we can be like pretend boyfriends, one per day.
I was going to say, no, you need to aim for one per meal. Like, you know, you have your breakfast buddy and then, you know, your lunchtime pal and whatever, your dinner date, and maybe an afternoon snack.
You do know that now I'm going to the gym trying to bulk up, like I'm on 6 meals a day. Sam, I cannot keep up with 6 a day. I won't even remember their names.
Would you remember their names otherwise?
Probably not.
Empty Closet Radio. Listen to us using your TuneIn radio app on your smartphone. Very smart.
So we've talked about holiday flings and the multitude of flings that Andrew may or may not be having in his big gay cruise, or on his big gay cruise. But I do want to talk briefly about the missed holiday fling. Have you ever had a time when you didn't hook up or pursue anything romantic with somebody when you're on a holiday and you later regretted that?
Does it count if they were on holidays but I was living here in Cairns?
Like, maybe? I don't know. What is the status of you being the holiday fling?
Well, I don't know, but it's a much more common story because there are many where I'm like, oh, that should have been a fling and it wasn't. Mainly people who are like, hey, I'm visiting and we're going to hang out. And usually half the time they're like people who are like friends of friends, or, you know, people who I'm like, hey, I'll show you around, I'll take you out to go and see a waterfall, or I'll take you to do something. And then I get so wrapped up in like showing off our beautiful waterfalls and stuff, I'm like, oh, I should have made more effort about like them.
I'm not sure that quite counts as what I'm talking about is where there's like clear chemistry, you know, of the sexy variety or of the romantic variety. And possibly there's actually discussion, and then for one reason or another you don't pursue it. And that can be a positive, but have you ever regretted not pursuing it?
Have you ever met a gay boy?
Clearly, since we're on the show together.
Well, literally, I can't think of a time where people talked about having a fling and then didn't, like, proceed a little bit further down the path, if you know what I mean.
No, but okay, but what if you didn't explicitly say fling, but there was interest? But I don't know. This is clearly not an experience you've had by the sounds of things.
Not really. I don't have that many regrets. I don't have that many regrets, Sam. I like to leave my options open. I just
have really dirty thoughts right now. I'm sorry.
Sam. No, I can't think of any time that I've really regretted it. What about you? Have you been on holidays and then like kind of sort of wanted to have a fling with someone and then didn't, and then thought later on maybe you should have?
I'm not sure that I regret not having the fling, but I had someone that I certainly thought was very attractive and who appeared to be quite interested in me right after I'd had my relationship breakdown. And they knew that. Like, I'd just met them on this trip, but they knew that because, of course, you become each other's social media friends and so on. And they were very like, oh, if they're just out of a bad situation, I don't want to make things worse, you know, and kind of backed off from the idea. And at the time I was a little disappointed, but then I look back and I'm like, it's probably not a bad thing because I don't think I was in a good place for it, and I'm still friends with them.
Here's the problem. You thought that you could have a holiday fling with someone who was actually a really decent person and who actually had your best interests at heart.
Yeah, which is why I don't regret not having the fling. But, like, you know, I'm also someone who appreciates aesthetics, so I was quite happy to hang around with them. Like, you know, even if I never got to do more than cuddle on the couch, that was, like, they were pretty to look at. It was fine.
Yes, there's something quite nice about hanging out with pretty people on holidays. I plan to do a lot of that, just hanging around. Just, you know, I just have them like little lawn ornaments. They can just hang around in my room. Oh yes, just look over there, look pretty. Just sit over there and look pretty. I could definitely deal with that. That would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that would be very appealing.
I doubt that they would remain idle for very long though.
Now, what I have also seen, though, is I've had to stop somebody else's interest in a fling, either with me or somebody, because sometimes people who are on holidays or people who are around people who are on holidays push more than they probably should. Have you ever had this, somebody who won't take no for an answer?
Oh, yes, but not really in the holiday context. There's like people who don't take no for an answer all the time, and I have to like be really bossy and be like, hang on, sunshine, you're a nice guy, but no thank you very much. And you have to be really like strict and enforce it, you know?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And so what I ended up doing was stuff like when I was traveling and I was staying in hostels, sometimes there would be, you know, really bubbly women who there were various men who took that to mean that they were super interested, even if they were bubbly towards everyone. And they would then like follow them. And so, like, we came home from the hostel, made friends with somebody in the hostel, and there were three of us, and we'd gone out and we'd had dinner, and then we'd gone to, like, look at the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, it was in Paris. And then we went somewhere for dessert, and then we came back. So this is like 4 hours after we'd finished dinner. And the waiter was actually at our hostel, like, trying to talk his way up into our room because he liked one of the girls.
This is another reason why I will never stay at a hostel.
Well, no, they weren't letting him pass the front counter. But we got back when he was there, and she was, like, trying to let him down easy, and he was just not understanding it. And we were hovering. And once he finally left, because you couldn't get up without a key card, like the doors were locked. She said, "Why were you waiting?" And we're like, you know, on the off chance that you couldn't get him to leave, we were just going to drag you away. And she's like, "Oh, that's good, because he kept looking at you, and I think that's why he left." And that's actually happened more than once. Like, not usually that bad where they followed us home, but where people have not, where I've had to kind of swoop in and go, "Oh, you know, my friend's here," and drag them away to like hang out because somebody won't take no for an answer.
Let's go and do anything. Anything will be better than this situation.
Thanks for listening to The Empty Closet, brought to you by 1019 Coast FM Cairns.